What are some of the old SEO techniques that are not effective at all today? What should you make sure that your current SEO isn't doing? A slew of the old hat SEO right now on the edge.
Go! Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. Powered by your digital marketing pioneers, Site Strategics. This week's featured guest is Kristina Azarenko, e-commerce and technical SEO consultant at Marketing Syrup. Now, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
This is Edge of the Web Radio episode 374. I'm your host, Aaron Sparks. Every week we're bringing you amazing guests from around the planet in the digital marketing space. We unpack a key marketing topic to talk about. And if you're a freelancer, a marketing agency, or part of a firm, this show is for you. Check out edgeofthewebradio.com. The show is actually brought to you by our title sponsor, Site Strategics, pioneers in the agile digital marketing space. The core specialties are SEO, SEM, and conversion rate optimization. And on top of that, omni-channel digital media broadcast like you're seeing right here. So if you're interested in what they can do for you, our parent company, give us a call at 877-SEO for Web or 877-736-4932. All right, so make sure you check out the bonus news podcast for this episode. We unpacked a number of key news items that are trending this very week. So make sure you check the show notes, and it's linked right there at the show, but you can also see it in the notes on the podcast itself. So for all of us, let's jump in to meet our guest of the hour. It's Kristina Azarenko. Let me tell you about Kristina for a second. She's an e-commerce and technical SEO specialist. She's actually based in Toronto, Canada, and she actually helps small and medium-sized businesses get traffic and sales that they deserve. She's actually very, very active on social in the SEO space. And I reached out to her to get her on the show as she represents the new SEO, the one that is deeply active in bringing attention to issues and pulling in SEOs from around the world to interact and contribute into conversations. So let's get her on board here. Kristina, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really good.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. How is it Ontario where you're from right now?
Yeah, I'm now in Toronto, Canada, and it's
Toronto.
Ontario. Yeah, it's province Ontario.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
so how's the weather?
The weather, honestly, it's amazing. It's sunny, it's cold, but sunny, and the leaves are amazing. They're beautiful. It's full fall.
Oh boy,
and I love it.
Canada's a beautiful country. Highly recommend going up there. I tell you what, Kristina, it was fantastic to get you on board on the news podcast. But one of the key things that I wanted to unpack with you is well, first and foremost, before even getting into that, tell us about your history and how you came to be into e-commerce and technical SEO in your own words.
Okay, in my own words. So not scripted.
Not scripted, exactly.
I mean,
so, use somebody else's words completely in describing your history. Who wrote that for me?
Okay, so I'll try to keep it clean and keep it short. So I started about 10 years ago, and I was working at a job I didn't love at all. I was a debt collector at one factory. And one day, for some reason, I decided that I want to go to an SEO course. At that time, I didn't even know what a website was. So I still ask myself, how could that happen? That I decided to go to an SEO course, but I did, and I really loved it. And I was so fascinated by that sphere that I even took some days off from my then job to dig deeper. I read all the posts that I could find. I found all the people on Twitter and on different social media websites. And I was really fascinated by this world. And then I started working as an SEO at an agency, then in-house. Then I moved to Canada. And after all these 10 years of working hands-on with different kinds of businesses, including I worked for 5 years for a company which produced Magento extensions, and they worked closely with merchants. I worked closely with e-commerce SEO in general. I realized that when I moved to Canada, I also worked with big e-commerce brands. And then when I became solo, I realized that I really want to work with e-commerce brands, and I'm really technical, so that's why I'm an e-commerce and technical SEO consultant.
Right.
Yeah, and this is just amazing. I love it.
That's great, and boy, we could have used talking to you. We launched a Magento site a while back, or actually moved it from Xcart to Magento, and that was a pleasurable experience, to say the least. We could have used your expertise. Well, it's great to be able to see that you jumped in there and you saw the community inside of social, and that community is really rich right now. There's a lot of contributors into the space, and there has been a kind of ebb and flow inside of the SEO space. So whenever you actually are regularly throwing out some great threads and polls inside of your social media, inside of your Twitter threads, and I tell you, one of them just really caught my attention here. You're inside the SEO hashtag. It was truly entertaining to watch. This one tweet was, which hashtag SEO task used to be important but has no value now? Now, what I wanted to do is tee this up and I want to pull that in and get a quick take on some of the contributors that actually came around that particular thread, and do a shout out, but really kind of go through some of these to point out some of the tactics that you mentioned, your audience mentioned, and that they may not actually be beneficial anymore. And we want to educate our audience about those. But on top of that, for clients that hire SEO professionals, quote unquote, we want to make sure we arm them with knowledge that some of the things that we mentioned here in this thread should not be done. And if you're actually hiring SEOs that actually are doing that or saying that they're doing something like this is basically a public service announcement to make sure that you arm yourself with the facts there. So
can I go first?
Can you go first?
I'm going to go with blue text on a blue background at the bottom of the page with just nothing but keywords.
This is absolutely a winner there. Kristina actually led with directory submissions first and foremost. Kristina, just tell us about that and what was directory submissions back in the day. Okay,
so first of all, just not to make anyone angry, I'm not talking about directory submissions for, local directory submissions for local SEO. This is different.
Yeah.
The directories I'm talking about, oh my God, that's just how I started. There were lots of different websites, when you would just log in and you fill in the information, the name of the contact, the URL of the website, the description of the website. Sometimes you would need to pay $1 or $2. We use just free directories, and sometimes you would even use Google Chrome extensions to fill in the information quickly.
Right.
And I remember that I had a plan for like 50 submissions per client, and oh my God, it was just.
It was quantity.
It was just
it was quantity, and these things had no real bearing, and you were trying to get anchor text in those links, and your submissions were kind of duplicated all over the place. What kind of value did those directories have at all?
So the main reason to do this was for links, because these directories, they kind of, when PageRank, PR used to be a thing, they were like PR 5, for example, directory, and you would submit there. And if you get a link, this link, you will get authority for your website.
Right.
So that was the main reason. And honestly, for some time, when Google was not that smart, they worked.
Right.
But it's not a long-term solution. And this is obviously not something that you would need to do right now.
No,
I've heard some people doing it, and no, it's just a waste of even if you pay just $100 to be included in 1,000 directories, you just wasted $100.
There you go.
Or you can waste even more if these directories will be flagged by Google and your website will be. Yeah, it's just like.
You're going to be spending a heck of a lot more because of the association to those sites.
Exactly.
So, absolutely.
Exactly.
So again, for companies that actually hire SEOs, if you see link directory submission, and we're not talking about the local side of things, it's a whole other conversation here. Run away very, very quickly. Okay, so Tim Capper at GuideTwit mentioned meta keywords. Meta keywords have been gone for the longest time, but back in the day, it was the say, hey, let's get our keywords in, and the proximity of the first keyword to the beginning of the tag was the most valuable. There was a heck of a mess in there, and yeah, that's gone the way of the dodo. And then Barry Schwartz chimed in, and he said content and links.
It was a joke.
It was a joke. And the sarcasm was palpable there, but it was damn funny. Mobile Moxie talked about search engine submissions. Right, here's another thing: submitting to a search engine. That was actually a practice, and we did here at the shop because you had the ability to actually submit, and there was software. Teams and teams of software that allowed you to be able to push content directly to search engines. So yeah, it was the thing, but
yeah,
nah.
And it's not about requesting indexing
Nope.
from Google Search Console. I hope that this option will leave because now it's temporarily disabled.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's not about asking Google to prioritize indexing of your content that you just created or updated. It's genuinely about helping search engines to discover your website that they do by themselves now pretty successfully.
Absolutely. And you certainly should submit a sitemap whenever you have some changes that you want to have file as quickly as possible. But yeah, the Google Index request has been down for almost a couple of weeks now, and we're feeling it over here. We have to rely on the bot crawling. Come on. So Dmoz was one from Liza Liza _SEO. What was Dmoz?
So it was also a directory, but it was a different kind of directory. It was a high value directory. And it was so great to be listed there.
Absolutely. And
I remember, so even like if you listed your client there, you could include it in your resume, and it would be a really good asset. And I remember I listed one of my clients or something, but it was pretty hard because Dmoz was something like, like Wikipedia, which is run mostly by volunteers, but they are very active there. But for Dmoz, they were not active, and you could wait for 6 months or something or forever.
That's right.
For your website to get listed there, and that's why sometimes you just won't check. Yeah, but it was. And you needed to have a really good description, a really good website to be listed there. So yeah, it was really, you looked really successful if you did this. But now it's just Dmoz is gone. I don't even like. I'm really curious what's on this domain. I don't know. I didn't check.
But I mean, there was actually strategists trying to affect and persuade the Dmoz volunteers to try and find them to see if you could nudge them in a particular way. Not that we did it, but there was tactics because if you can't get them to pay attention to it. I mean, you're right. And some applications never got approved. So
it's all networking, right?
Absolutely, exactly. So another one from Storytellers at HQ, blog commenting. Now, here's another thing that we want to arm our listeners for. If your SEO is saying that part of the SEO strategy is to comment on blogs with a link back to your site, run away. So unpack the blog commenting. What did you see? What horrors did you see in blog commenting over the years?
Oh my God, I have a blog. And before I installed a proper wall to like spam wall, I had so many weird comments, starting from adult websites and also with like random words. And at some point I even made screenshots because they were so funny. The comment didn't make any sense, but different words, it was just funny. But yeah, I find that sometimes people even would comment, add a link, and very thoughtfully add no follow to this link. This is the funniest thing for me.
Why?
Maybe because they want you to let this comment in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, just commenting, especially with there is software to do this.
Yep.
Don't do this.
No. Absolutely.
And it's completely different when you go to somebody else's blog and you provide value with your comment, and you can add resource, whether it's yours or whether it's, for example, Google, Google Help. It's completely different. But this is something that you're providing value with.
That's right.
But if you're there just saying, "Oh, great content, here is something I wrote about that," no, it's not valuable at all.
No, absolutely. And then somebody just exploded on the scene in this thread, and I'm narrating a Twitter thread, but it was so damn funny. Darth_NA, the Darth Autocrat, he listed out a number of, and I'll just ask you to pick one. He said buying +1, so that's so damn funny. Hidden content, footer link spam, right? Page rank, yep, you won. Page rank sculpting via no follow, guest post bombing, press release bombing. Oh my gosh. I just remember that. Micro and doorway sites. So take your pick. Which one would you do you want to comment on that?
Book marketing.
All right.
Yeah, so it was similar to directory submissions, but generally they would be book marketing websites. Like, oh my God, I try to remember, like Stumble Upon and some others.
Yep.
And the main reason to submit websites there was for links again. And I don't think that most of these websites were visited by real humans, except for SEOs trying to get links.
It's a very quiet room.
So the whole purpose of, social, like you book market it,
Right.
but you just book marketing it for the sake of getting link is like, it's not working. And so there are currently some social book marketing websites like Biz Sugar, but I believe that most of them should have no follow links, which means that you're not getting authority. And also this is also what did I want to say? So basically it's not for getting links. It's not worth your time.
Nope.
If it works for getting traffic, that's amazing. But for links, going to 100 different social book marketing websites and submitting your link, no.
Now, there are strategies for, working inside of Reddit, but it is an organic environment. Is that you got to be on your P's and Q's in there, because that is a vicious environment if they think they're getting spun by a marketer. But there are opportunities there. So
but it's for traffic. Right. It's not for links. It's for traffic
and authority,
it's for
and having conversation.
Exactly.
All right. So there was a slew of others in here. I'll rattle them off like a machine gun here. Forum submission from Digital K Hair. Google Plus marketing for SEO by Howdy Dowdy. Google Plus marketing. Those were the days, right? Did we ever get anything from Google Plus?
Well, actually, yes. Google Plus. Do you know authorship? When you can prove authorship.
That was the one thing.
It was the thing that Google used to make people just switch to Google Plus. It didn't work in the end, but yeah, I remember I had this picture of me, nice picture of me in Google SERPs, which was added with Google authorship.
That's right.
Then they sunsetted it. But that was one thing that
that royal author tag, the coveted thing, so we could affect that SERP, be able to say have our picture right there. So NJ Mott on Twitter actually wrote writing for search engines. And that was actually a bit poetic there. Is that we shouldn't be writing for search engines. We should be writing for the customer, the consumer of the content. And if you're spamming, wordsmithing, keyword densifying, if that's an actual verb, that content, you're not writing for the user. And I think we've actually matured enough to actually to have that as a discipline. Would you say? Hopefully.
Yeah, I'd say yes. And so there are two sides to it. So first of all, of course, content should not be just for search engines, because nobody's going to read it. It's not interesting, it's not enticing, and it's not converting. This is one of the main points. So, but at the same time, having SEO in mind, just not writing, because I see so many blogs, writing kind of valuable content, but they're not using any keywords at all. I mean, they're writing about something in general and as a result, nobody's finding this information. So it's kind of valuable, but nobody sees this. So it's better to take a more educated approach and still do keyword research.
Absolutely.
But use keywords, use synonyms. It doesn't mean that you need to use only just SEO. You can use search engine optimization. But yeah, use synonyms and use conversational language versus just like writing for search engines. But that's why I'm not a fan of, saying you need to list this keyword, like 5 times on the page. You need to list this keyword 3 times on the page, or you need to keep your keyword density this percentage. I find it really, I don't know, too mechanical, and it doesn't necessarily work.
No, absolutely not. And the engines are matured so much that, yes, natural language processing, writing a sentence that somebody would ask, your mobile phone or your smart speaker is much more aligned to customer intent. And on top of that, giving content that they want to read, as opposed to on the face value, you can see something. We're all digital savvy, at least the audience here, and you can see something that's spun for SEO specific advantages. So absolutely. So kudos to go ahead.
Yeah, and one more thing, it just makes me sad every time when I talk to a client and they say, "Oh, we don't want to write content for SEO." Like, no, you don't need to write content for SEO. You need to write good content, which will also be optimized. Because, some people think that is just, keywords, or they would have separate pages for SEO, separate pages for just normal pages. And this is also not how things should work.
No. All right, so kudos for NJ Mott for giving us that epiphany there. A few others real quick. Exact match domains, absolutely. Don't even worry about those anymore. It's not about the domain. It's not about the words in the domain itself. It's about the value of that site content. Google authorship, link exchange.
Yeah.
Exchanging links, reciprocal links. That's gone the way of the dodo. That was from SEO Goddess. Keyword stuffing. Just on its merits, just the 2 words together. Why would you even want to do something like that? But that was the takes. Doorway pages from William Harvey, and last but not least, one of my choices was article spinning. Now, if you don't know what article spinning was, Kristina, can you give us an insight into that magical elixir?
Oh yeah, so it was also for links. So what I find is like 80% of all the black schemes, or also all these old things that don't work, are for getting links. So article spinning is for links as well. And what it is and what it was is when you write a post and then you submit it to many different websites. And the ones that I can remember are Anzin articles and Squidoo, something like that. So I remember I had a client at my first agency, and we had one post a week, and I would submit it to basically spin articles. And I thought that there must be something wrong, because I was a junior. I didn't understand a lot, but I was like, this must be wrong. I can't believe that. And they also posted it on their own blog. So I was like, I assume just common sense. I assume that if you have content somewhere, it means that this content to be only there, but it should not be on 20 or 30 other websites. So yeah, don't write post and submit it to many different websites. The exception is when you, for example, you want to use it on Medium as well or some other website, but you put a cross-domain canonical pointing back to the original.
And
website.
some citation on the page
okay.
itself. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was a wild west of SEO list that that thread brought out. So it was pretty darn funny, and I really appreciate you teeing it up. And that's what you're doing regularly in social is and just watch Kristina's thread. There's a lot of quick polls and just you're getting the pulse of SEOs, and SEOs are really contributing and jumping into that. I do want to add one thing to that list. You may not have ever heard this before, but literally there was a company that I know of that part of their employee manual, as they were submitting for content spamming, right, and comment spamming. After a while, the systems, the Cloudflares, were getting used to and knowledgeable about their IPs. Part of the user manual was actually to unplug your router, let it die, and get a new IP as soon as you reclaim that, so you can keep on submitting with a new network IP. You talk about that making you feel dirty.
Okay, so I have a confession to make that. I just remembered. Okay, most of the people who started where I started, or even before that, have contributed to some kind of spam in the internet. Yep. That's how we all started. So as I'm from Belarus, I was working there when I started. And I remember, so I also submitted links to forums. And I remember that we were using VPNs to submit them, because if we were submitting to UK, for example, USA forums, and we wanted to make sure that the IP address is UK or USA. So you would need to do this. Or if you wanted to register 2 different accounts, you would use different IPs, because you can be flagged if you register 2 accounts from one. So you
just had you had to take a shower after doing it. All right. Well, again, we thank you so much for the list there, and keep up the good work. And be aware, companies that hire SEOs, if you don't want to hear these concepts from your SEO expert. I did want to bring back around just a key topic, because you do kind of represent the new guard of SEO, and socially contributing, communicating regularly, and there's a lot of really good thought leadership in Twitter that are actually sharing information regularly. And so I use the example of your Twitter thread back in September as an example of that participation. Well, tell me your philosophy about social engagement in the industry, the SEO industry. Well, why do you do what you do inside of social media?
Yeah, it's honestly a really good question. And I think that for a very long time, I was feeling alone in the industry. I didn't have anybody to ask questions. I didn't have anybody to bounce ideas off. And I was constantly reading Search Engine Land, Search Engine Roundtable, and all the resources. And I was like, oh my God, these people are so smart. And I never felt that I had the permission to share. And at some point, I realized that, okay, even some minor things that I think are common sense for me right now, or for everybody, might be really valuable for people who are just one step behind me, or people who just haven't come across something, right? And I really wanted to be part of the SEO community, to feel part of this SEO community. So I just started occasionally sharing what I learned from my everyday life, or what I learned throughout the years of me working in SEO. And I found that it really got traction, because people are curious, people are eager to know, to learn something, and people are eager to, to participate in these polls, to participate in these threads. And it's amazing. I find that, especially in the COVID times, it has really helped me, to cope with all the loneliness. In general, being part of the SEO community is amazing.
Excellent. And are you seeing a lot of of contributors in the space. I mean, you've been doing SEO for 10 years, and certainly 10 years in SEO is like canine years. It's like 70 years, and you don't really get the fun kibble either, because it's a constant change of platform. You never know stability in SEO, and there are some key concepts and best principles to abide by, but things are changing all the time. So are you seeing inside of SEO now more and more contribution, or are you seeing it lighter during this period of time?
When you say during this period of time, COVID, or just recently?
That's a really good point, because I mean, COVID changed everybody's engagement, right? So let's talk pre-COVID. Let's talk in the last year. Were you seeing participation? Were people helping each other, right, inside of SEO?
I would say it was pre-COVID as well. I've seen this a lot, and I remember. So last year, I even wanted to make a post about misconceptions that current SEO experts had when they started, and I had so many amazing people contributing to it, and it was for me fascinating that people are eager to talk, right? Because I think that what stops many people from sharing or from starting a conversation is because they think, oh, nobody is going to listen to me, or nobody is going to participate, or nobody cares about me.
Yeah.
But the truth is that we are all inside of our own heads most of the time, right? Yeah, we talk with clients, we talk with other team members, or with our dogs or cats, or husbands, wives, but it's also valuable to talk to people who understand what you are talking about. If I'm going to talk about a canonical tag with my mother, she's not going to join my conversation, right? So it's also great to have people who speak the same language as you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, my kids are completely tone deaf to anything that I have to say regarding SEO. It's terrible. I mean, their eyes roll back in their heads now as soon as I say the word SEO. Well,
it's only SEO?
No.
Because I have kids too, Aaron.
It's a lot of what I say, to be honest with you.
And I know they're tone deaf to my voice.
All right. So Kristina, you're talking to your cats. Back to the... You're right. We need that type of response, but there is also a kind of a fear inside of SEO, because it is such an analytical space. If you don't have your data right, there's fear of being pounced on. And there has been in the SEO community over the years kind of a reluctance to be able to posit a thought without having armed with all the bloody data to be able to make your argument, because there are some contentions out there, contentious people that kind of shame you inside of SEO. And there is a bit of, and you could very well correct me if I'm wrong, there is a bit of shaming the noobs, so to speak, that are literally asking some legitimate questions, and they don't only get the back of the hand, they kind of get drugged through the town square of SEO, right?
Yeah, I think it's one of the fears as well, that, oh, what if people will judge me? And this is a normal fear to have, because we are people and we need to we need to be part of a group, part of a pack.
Right.
But I'd say that in general, what I have recently seen is that there is a tendency to say that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to not know everything, because, okay, 10 years ago, SEO was just one thing, but now SEO is 10 different things, and you can't be an expert in everything. And in general, being a nice person doesn't help in SEO, doesn't only help in SEO, but it helps in life as in general.
Certainly.
So yeah, just if you don't like something, or like, do better. That's it. And yeah, I just think that it's important to work on the mindset as well, to make sure that this doesn't stop you from sharing. Because I remember that actually happened to me many years ago. I used to have a Russian blog. It was on SEO. obviously. So I was sharing everything that I've learned. I was like, yeah, I need to write a post. And it wasn't, researched posts that I would need to show to my clients or something. I learned how to install Cloudflare. I would write about Cloudflare. I would learn how to use MailChimp. I would write about MailChimp. So basically was sharing every step that I was doing. It was really amazing. But I remember one guy, he came to my blog and he asked me like weird questions and he didn't know the answers because it wasn't about SEO at all. He told me, oh, you can't call yourself an SEO if you don't know this Firefox or something.
Right.
It was many years ago, and that actually influenced me a lot. And I remember that was the beginning of the end. And within a few months, I just stopped writing anything because I was like, I'm doing this for free. I'm doing this in my spare time.
Right.
Why do I need to do this if I get this negativity?
Right.
But it worked for me. But then I realized that if other people's comments, and this guy might be living somewhere, he doesn't remember it about me, right? So, and this happens all the time. And if this negativity of other people influences my life decisions, that's on me. That's not on them, that's on me. So also developing your mindset and being stronger and being more confident helps a lot.
No, absolutely. And certainly, you want to be able to help others. I mean, that's a big piece there, big story. And those people who actually do that type of thing usually are doing it for themselves, not for any other reason, right? But two, you also you get from that the want to be able to help people get through that without that type of crassness that is inside of social. Any way you get it, anyway, and there's there's no way around it, but you can arm and be able to join arms with people that are wanting to learn. It's okay to ask questions. The worst thing is to ask a question about some of the old tactics that, hey, maybe this works, and we should have a community that doesn't put them on a pike and what have you. Boy, I'm going quite medieval today. So I guess my question is, as you were talking, I was just thinking, how would you guide new SEOs into this new world of social interaction? I mean, we're talking about how it affected you. You kind of clammed up for a bit, but then you got into it and started to communicate. What kind of guidance would you give people that are getting into this? Should they be socially interacting? There is certainly a fear there, but SEO. I mean, is the community interaction worth it?
I'd say that it depends on the person. There are people who can be kind of blogger style, people who just want to keep quiet. Sure. I'm something in between. Some days I just don't want to show up anywhere. So it just depends on the personality. I know many great SEOs, and I've talked to them and I say, like, you can share this. That's amazing. People will love it. And they don't do this because that's their decision. They don't want to do this. That's not how they see their life. So if you don't feel like sharing, you don't need to share. Sure. That's completely your choice. But if you feel like sharing, you want to do this, but you're just afraid, that's something you can overcome this fear. Because again, if you know that you're doing your best, you can be confident about that.
Absolutely.
And secondly, if somebody tries to get you, if somebody tries to offend you, that's about them. That's not about you. So just think about that. How a person who doesn't even know you and who tries to offend you. I had such person on LinkedIn. I just blocked him because I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with people issues, right? So if somebody who doesn't even know you tries to offend you, think how bad their life is.
Exactly. What's in it for them? Absolutely. I got one question though, before we get into our last section here. Think about this for a second. Sharing into the SEO community. There is a mantra of when one teaches to learn, right? So if you're actually bringing data, you're actually teaching yourself how to communicate, how to actually share information. It certainly does benefit communicating to the client whenever they're asking a question by being able to tee it up to, friends and family inside the SEO community and be able to see how people respond to your data, to your analysis. It does kind of not harden you, but it does vet what you're doing so you can be a better communicator to your clients and colleagues, right?
Yeah, exactly, 100%. I came up with some explanations of concepts, just for social media posts, and then I used them on real client calls, and it worked really well. And what also worked is I created an SEO course, and when I was doing it, I was, coming up with different stories, how to explain this or that. And it also helped me a lot in communicating with clients. So any kind of communication, whether it's, personal, in-person communication, or whether it's a post or on social media, helps. And also, I'm active on LinkedIn and Twitter. And what I find interesting is that the audiences are completely different. And it's interesting to tailor the same post to a different audience and to different character limit from LinkedIn, for example, to Twitter. Is interesting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your insight in that, because I wanted to ask you some of your insights there, because, like I said, you're focused on communicating, and it's very entertaining as well. And I think it's part of the new generation of digital marketers. And on top of that, they just can't be an SEO. They have to also appreciate the other digital marketing tactics and skills as well. And the only way to do that is to be able to learn and be able to communicate. And with the COVID environment that we're in, we're not at conferences. We're not rubbing elbows. We're not sharing meals together. So we have to be communicating in this space, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it helps. It helps a lot. And honestly, I got to know some people that I don't think they would ever catch. But for COVID, when they spend more time online, so it's a really good opportunity to meet some people that you've always wanted to meet.
Absolutely. All right, so Kristina, in part one, we talked about some of the skills that are outdated and black hat in some ways, tactics that should not be used. We certainly want to have our audience grab that podcast. It is literally hilarious, and watch the thread as well out there in Kristina's social media. There was some great contributors to the old tactics from SEO. So let's get into the top skills that an SEO should have. An SEO in this day and age has to be on their game. And one of the things that just made my eyes bleed when I saw that thread is that there was one comment from one particular social account that was talking about an old tactic, and they literally had the hashtag OK SEO boomer, and that made my heart crumble right there, because I think I'm an SEO boomer. I really do. But there's always been a need for learning and continually learning inside of SEO. This is one of the trades in business that you have to be constantly paying attention to what's out there. So you actually have a really good list of core skills. You got a quick ebook that can be downloaded from SEOchallenge.co. I won't give away the farm on the list here, but I do want to grab a couple tactics and unpack them with you, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So this is the downloadable is a list of the core SEO skills, and many people found it really useful, just to make sure that, first of all, if you're studying, you need to know what to know. If, for example, I were studying, front-end development, I would need to know what exactly I need to know. Absolutely. Become a front-end developer. Or for those SEOs who have already started, but they want to know where they are standing. So one of the skills, there are hard SEO skills, soft SEO skills, because I find that it's also important to have soft skills to be good SEO, and also tools. So one of the hard SEO skills is keyword and intent research. Yes. And it's very important. And it's not only about keywords, notice, it's also about intent. Because intent is one of the main things that will define whether you're going to rank or your client is going to rank for this query or not. If, for example, you are trying to optimize your product page for an informational query, it means that you might not have chances to rank. So keyword and intent research, they come together, and this is one of the core skills that any SEO needs to master.
Absolutely, but I want to, and that was one of the ones I was going to go after here, because it's not only about ranking, but it's also about understanding that buyer journey. Your consumer is not only using one phrase, they're using a lot of different key phrases to find you, and they're all in the different stages of their research, of making decisions on what provider of service to go with. So this buyer's journey breakdown of understanding intent in different stages based on the operant phrases inside of a series of key phrases, it actually can go further than anything inside of SEO. It can guide content, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But more than that, this can actually kind of jump out of the fence of marketing into sales. You can actually give information to the sales department on what that research is. Understanding consumer knowledge in the space of the pain points that they're experiencing can actually help the business as a whole understand. So SEO is kind of this bastion on the hill that can actually do some reconnaissance for the entire company, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I remember, I have a good example about this. So I had one client, and so they were an e-commerce website, but they also wanted to create supporting content. And one of the pain points that it was solving is, having something, the URL with the content that their help desk people can just copy, paste, and send to users instead of just always answering from scratch. And secondly, to attract people who were interested, in more supporting content, in informational. So it had informational user intent.
Got it.
So basically, what I did all the keyword research, and I also asked real people, help desk team, about the questions that real customers of that exact company are asking. Because even if these questions might not have search volume in Google, people are still asking them. This means that it's valuable to have them on the website. And we created knowledge base with all the questions and all the answers, and it did really great. And while the individual articles in the knowledge base, they don't sell product, but it first of all helps to increase loyalty of the brand, because if it's something about this exact brand, people will better find it on their website than go to forums, and somebody will just no, it doesn't work or something like that.
Exactly.
And secondly, if somebody haven't bought this product yet, they can be searching about some problem that they want to solve, find this, and this is brand awareness. They already see this brand, they're okay, got it. And next time when they see this brand, they are more loyal and they are more eager to buy it.
Absolutely. And yeah, exactly. They see, customers see that you've actually invested time to answer questions and be able to share with them easy, snackable, consumable content. It certainly paves the way to brand loyalty and understanding that there's somebody behind the edifice that's taking care of them. So it's much more than keywords and finding the best volume. It really is understanding your users to a much greater degree. All right, so I got a feeling that we could actually go on for a long time here. So and another core skill here is I saw on-page SEO, and I want to talk about it, but that literally is its own conversation. So let's talk about mobile SEO for a second. Let's unpack that.
Yeah. So I'm not actually a fan of calling it mobile SEO, but this is how people understand it easily. So that's why I call it like that. But it's basically making sure that a website is mobile friendly and has all the needed content on mobile as well. And it's very crucial because of mobile first indexing, which means that Google cares only about what it sees on your mobile website versus desktop.
Right.
And this is not, this is not the common sense, because we usually, we as SEOs, as many people, marketers in general, we tend to use our desktop computers for research, right? I mean, for SEO research. We don't usually check, titles or something like that on mobile. We do this mostly on the desktop, and you can have a perfect audit, but then you can realize that actually all the things that are working on the desktop website don't work on mobile.
Yep.
And that's what Google will see. And especially from March 2021, mobile first indexing is going to be 100% live. Now it's just for most of the websites. And after March, Google will not look at the desktop version at all. So that's crucial.
Not a scary statement there, folks.
It's not scary if you know how to handle it, right? It's not scary at all. And if you are an SEO, I'm pretty sure that you have been doing this for at least 2-3 years. Yeah,
absolutely. So moving past the hard skills, and we certainly appreciate everything that you listed there, into soft skills. One that really took me by surprise there, and it earned a good deal more respect as I was starting to go through this list. You talked about strong communication skills, and honestly, we actually covered that with communication and learning how to actually share and communicate. But you also brought in responsibility, and in an SEO realm, and in the the back channels of SEO over the years, it certainly has been the snake oil, black hat side of things. SEO's got a bad rap. And a lot of it because individuals that aren't in the game don't know what it is. It's very intangible, and on top of it, companies by and large now have been burnt by somebody that was actually doing something wrong or selling them a bill of goods, and they've had to change companies, and sometimes companies are changing them again and again and again. So, taking responsibility, what do you mean by that key soft skill?
Yeah, so one of the things is taking responsibility for the actions that you're doing right now.
Yep.
So, for example, if you suggest your client buying links, and it can work potentially in the short run, but are you sure Google won't catch it in the long run?
Right.
You can just ruin people's business. And this is important. And you should be responsible for these decisions, and you should be responsible for these suggestions.
Right.
And also, in general, for any recommendations that you are doing, you need to think long term. And another aspect of responsibility is, I usually find myself, this always happens with me. I usually find myself thinking about many aspects and checking the developers' work just in case, just to make sure. And it really pisses me off when I work with somebody. It's not even about SEO. For example, if I hire somebody and they don't really think, they just try to do something quickly,
right? And
they don't think how it all falls into the whole picture. So when it comes to SEO, okay, we can create this page, we can rank you for this keyword, but does this keyword really help with achieving business goals?
Right.
So, yeah, it's a very wide skill, but basically being responsible for your actions and for your recommendations, and understanding that you should bring value versus just filling a gap or something. Really helps. It
does, and responsibility cannot also go so far of taking responsibility of everything that can possibly go wrong on the website either.
Yeah.
And SEOs sometimes get that landed right at their feet, that I thought you said this was going to work. Well, this was, but you've got this, and this.
Yeah.
working against you. Got to make sure that you're not finger pointing on those things, that you take responsibility for the efforts and the work that you've done.
Yeah.
But also, you have the responsibility to yourself as an SEO to make your superior or the client aware of the other factors that are, pardon me, playing in the same space. That could be warring against your success that you're trying to create.
Yeah.
So they, if for example, and just basically, if you have a toxic link profile, and you're doing good content and you're doing good SEO, and if you're not aware of it, then that actually is your responsibility too. But if you're not allowed to be able to do work on the disavow and cleaning up that link profile, then it's your responsibility to let your superiors know that this is a negative factor that's working. Don't take that on as an accountable area that you have no control over, right?
Yeah, exactly. And being responsible doesn't, again, as you said, doesn't mean necessarily that you should take responsibility for everything.
That's
you
right.
should also know other people for what they are responsible.
That's
for example, if it's a developer, have a user story and acceptance criteria, so that if something goes wrong and you point to the acceptance criteria and say that's how it should be done, and it is done in the wrong way, it's not an SEO's responsibility, it's the developer's responsibility. So that's also important.
That's right. So out of respect for time, there's so many things that you lit up there. You talked about Google Analytics and Google Search Console and Data Studio. I'd love to talk about that. You also went through a number of tools that are in the space, and we certainly recommend our listeners, our audience, to go check out the download there, because she does have a good number of tools, and I wanted to geek out on you with a good number of tools there. But I do want to get to one thing, and real quick is understanding other, the sundry of items that you're talking about there is a great master plan of education. And more importantly, these are things that are not topical. They don't fade away. These are core principles, basically, of SEO that are not flash in the pans that we've seen over the years. These are core. You're really kind of creating not just a principle list of execution, but it's also guiding who want to come into the SEO community and learn these talents. These are guiding North Stars of knowledge, of soft skills, and tool sets that really have not wavered this entire time through SEO. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. They are changing. Like, for example, we didn't have Google Data Studio, right, but now we do. But they're changing. But when you know all of this, you will be a good SEO. But it doesn't mean that you need to know all of this, like 100%. And there are also many things to add, but I just didn't want to overwhelm people, because if I were to wanted to become a front-end developer, and then I see a list of 122 things that I need to learn, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this.
That's our bonus podcast. I bet we could do that. I bet we could. All right. Well, Kristina, it's very good to be able to talk to you about that list. We certainly recommend our listeners go and download that and get an idea of. And on top of that, you have a number of ebooks out there. I do want to ask you, Kristina, before we stop today, is what bugs you about your industry, if I could ask you that?
So one of the things is that it changes very quickly. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of love it, but I kind of hate it as well. And that's to go back to a good example would be this Google Analytics for property, right? Which appeared. It's great that things are changing, but at the same time, it means that you need to learn them and do this quickly, and you need to adapt quickly. So, on the one hand, I like it because it's always interesting. But when there is too much, because you always have a constant FOMO of things that you need to do, you need to learn, but you just can't.
Where's the time?
Have enough time for that.
Right.
Exactly. And another thing that it's about clients. I don't really like when clients, they're not educated enough, and when they are looking for something, and then they are looking for somebody to just I don't know, rank us for these really, really competitive keyword, which is actually not really relevant,
right.
but rank us for this keyword within two weeks, and we need a guarantee.
Right.
And any good SEO would refuse, but there are people who say, okay, I'll do this, and they won't do anything. And then the client ends up even more frustrated and even less trusting. So that's something that I don't really like.
Absolutely, yeah. There's some bad apples there, and we're certainly wanting to make sure that we don't call them out, but we certainly educate the listeners that are clients and our businesses to know what's what. So certainly go back to our previous podcast today, the first part of our podcast, to be able to listen to some of the things that you shouldn't hear from your SEO. Well, conversely, what excites you about your industry right now?
One thing that excites me is the community. And we also kind of talk about that, but yeah, I just love it. And especially the COVID times, I felt, this part of the community, and met lots of different amazing people, and I really love it. And the second thing is that, again, it's also about COVID, but companies are starting to understand that SEO is a really great tool. It's a tool that can bring consistent traffic instead of just, always throwing in money for ads. So that's another thing that I like.
Very good. Very good. Well, we certainly want to promote for you the 23 core SEO skills that you have on SEOchallenge.co. Real easy to download, and it should be actually printed out and put on your wall of things that you see regularly that you should be paying attention to when you're doing SEO. So kudos for that. It's pretty intuitive, knowing what you should be regularly paying attention to. And it's not that's just the skill. These are the tip of the iceberg. There's so much subsection content in there. Probably going to need to write a book at some point in time. You realize that, unpacking all that stuff. You also have an e-commerce SEO newsletter. So you go over to Marketing Syrup. That's an awesome domain. Where'd that come up with? Where'd you come up with that, by the way?
So when I moved to Canada, I decided that I need to get a new blog, an SEO blog in English. And I was thinking a lot about the name. And then I thought, okay, Syrup, because I'm in Canada, and marketing, because I didn't want it to be only about SEO. My old posts are about Facebook ads, Google ads as well, because I did them a lot. Right. So it was just marketing and Syrup. And I love the name that I decided that is going to be the name of my company when I became solo. And now it's my company website,
Very
not
good.
just a blog.
Very good. All righty. It's the name that sticks with you. Hey, dad joke. Sorry. Oh, Jacob just slammed his head on the floor. All right, so be sure to check out all the trending news that we cover with Kristina Azarenko over on the Bonus News podcast, as well as the first section of the podcast as well. And we'll also be moving a number of the different key videos out into the YouTube channel, so pay attention there. If you want to follow Kristina, you can follow her on Azar-Chick, AZAR-Chick on Twitter. LinkedIn is Kristina Azarenko, and Facebook is Kristina.Azarenko. Any final words for our SEO audience today?
Yeah, just learn, experiment, and share if you feel like it. If you don't feel like it, just learn and share and experiment. And yeah, have an awesome day, guys, and everybody. Very good. I'm not really good at farewells.
That's all right. So we'll have you back again sometime. Thanks so much for joining us on the Edge. And good luck.
Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. Good luck in your career as well.
Thank you.
All righty. Hey, please do not forget to like and subscribe to Edge of the Web on YouTube. And if you're really feeling up to it today, go ahead and go over to iTunes and give us a review. Let us know how we're doing on the show. Let us know how this show fared with you. Give us a review. Let us know so we can continue to give you better and better content. That's what we do over here. So thanks to our sponsors, Site Strategics and Ahrefs. Make sure you join ahrefs.com and check out their 7 days for $7 platform over there. It's a fantastic tool set for SEO and inbound analysis and competitor analysis as well. Check out all the must-see videos over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. Next show, we're going to be talking to, finally, Dixon Jones, after I canceled twice on him, and I'm sorry, but yet he's coming in from Inlinks, and we're going to talk about schema, some deep schema stuff in the next couple of episodes. So from all of us over at Site Strategics and Edge of the Web, be safe, be well, and do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.